Good afternoon and welcome to the Renfrew County Housing Corporation meeting. It is Tuesday, September 10th at 1 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. As we gather today, we acknowledge on behalf of the County of Renfrew and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Omama-Winini Algonquin people. We thank the Omama-Winini people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Has roll call been taken?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? I see none. I'd like a mover and a seconder, please, to adopt the minutes of August 14th for the Renfrew County Housing Corporation. Moved by the member from Killaloo Haggerty Richards, seconded by the member from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. Mover and a seconder, please, for the adoption of the closed minutes of August 14th. Sorry?
Councillor Mayville wasn't at the last meeting, so he cannot move or second.
Could I get okay, moved by the warden, seconded by the member from Petawawa. Thank you. Mover and a seconder for the adoption of the closed minutes of August 14th, please. Moved by member from Petawawa, seconded by the member from, he wasn't here? Member for the warden. All in favor? Carried. We have a delegation, and I would like to invite Mr. Davis to introduce, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to have with us during this open session and open introduction our consultant that has completed our BCAs for our housing corporation assets. And fortunately, the information we will be presenting in closed. So the presentation will be enclosed, and we do have a bit of a timeline for our presenter, Aidan Townsend, who's here with us virtually. But I just want to make a comment about the BCAs. We've talked about the BCAs a number of times throughout the past year, what we're depending on from the BCA information. So when you get to the closed meeting, the presentation, a very important aspect as we move forward. We talked about the Mesa gathering, we talked about the housing summit, all these different things that are impacting our housing continuum. This will play a key role as we move forward for the how we're going to deal with the housing information we have. So if I could, Chair, I'd like to ask if you could go into closed for the presentation.
Thank you. So the recommendation is that pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors move into a closed meeting to discuss the security of the property of the municipality or local board and a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, building condition assessment. All in favor? Carried. Motion. Moved by the member from, or the warden, seconded by the member from Killaloo Haggerty Richards. All in favor? Carried. Thank you and welcome back. We do have a recommendation coming out of this meeting.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a board recommendation or a resolution, and this resolution does not have to go to County Council because this is the board has oversight over this resolution, and there's no budgetary impacts to County Council. So coming out of close, I would suggest to you the recommendation is that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board direct staff to develop a renewal and replacement strategy to maintain and grow the community housing solution in Renfrew County.
A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by the member from Whitewater, seconded by the warden. All in favor, or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item is the director's report. There is none at this time. Manager of Community Housing monthly report, please.
Good afternoon. The report starts on page 9 of your package with information item 1, Ending Violence Alliance. The County of Renfrew Community Services Department is a proud member of the Ending Violence Alliance of Renfrew County that's formerly known as Ending Violence Against Women. Community services managers actively participate on the EVA executive and we attend meetings approximately 8 to 9 times a year. EVA Renfrew County includes a diverse range of professionals, those with lived experience, and other interested community members to join forces in focusing activities that are for the prevention, education, systemic change, networking, and provision of all concerns regarding forms of violence. It was with the collaboration of the Community Services Department, County of Renfrew, and the EVA Committee that just over a year ago that we saw the establishment of a She Can Fund. The Community Services Department also provides regular training for staff on gender-based violence and intimate partner violence, ensuring that services are delivered with an empathetic, supportive, and informed approach. For your information, as an attachment, is a Take Back the Night March poster, and this is for the purpose of providing a voice in the community so that the community sees that this is an important initiative, and this march is on September 19th at 6:30 p.m. at the Petawawa Civic Center.
Actually, I'll ask if there are any comments on this before you go to the resolution. Any comments or questions? Member from Killaloo Haggerty Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a great initiative. And further to that, I asked my council last week or the week before, I can't remember which, my days are running together. But it's great that there's a one-time thing, but is there something that we can do on a continuous basis? Like, I'm not saying day to day, but week to week, that we need to be in the public spotlight for people to see that this is an ongoing problem. And what can we do, what can we lead people into and make them aware on a consistent basis, as opposed to once a year?
Ms. Dombrowski?
I certainly think that the EVA committee and organizations that are a part of that committee share the same sentiments of you. And I know that there's various advertisements that happen from time to time to educate the public, and events that happen as well to educate the public. So I think certainly, as our, involvement with the network and our commitment to this very important topic, that we can continue to share this information with the board and the Community Services Committee as events arise and as we become aware.
Warden, please.
Yes, thank you. And that's one of our, to the member from Killaloo Haggerty Richards, that's been one of our messages quite consistently with EVA, is that we want to as county council, but more specifically, the male members of county council want to be more supportive. I've explained that it's been difficult for someone like me, who's a white, older male, who's had a very good life, quite privileged, in fact, to speak up, because you often feel like you're stomping on their message, or it suddenly becomes about me being the only male in the room. But they've assured me that they don't take it like that. They appreciate the support and you speaking out on any and all occasions. And so I think that, that's probably the best message we can take from here as male members of county council and of our community, is to speak out on this issue on a regular basis whenever you can. Attend as many events as we can. And I attend them in a non-speaking role sometimes as well, simply because I think it's important to see faces like mine in the crowd. So I can offer you that. And then secondly, how far is the walk on, do we know, like it's not 10 kilometers or anything? Wicked?
Through you, Chair, I don't know the exact.
Okay. I think I'm going to go and I'll get Councillor Service to carry me if I need something else. But thank you. No, seriously, I think that's the message we have to take from this, is that we need to take more responsibility for messaging.
Member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I don't know if I'd be able to carry you that far, but in terms of the distance of the walk, I think it's about 2 kilometers. Yeah, it's just a circular route around the Civic Center property.
Thank you. And as a female member of this council, I appreciate the importance that you are putting on this subject. Okay, go on to resolutions, please.
Thank you. Up next, we have a resolution concerning a framework for a 10-year homelessness and housing plan. Chair, we have a slight modification to the wording of the recommendation. May I go ahead with that?
Yes, please.
Thank you. The recommendation is that the Renfrew County Housing Corporation Board of Directors accept receipt of the 10-year homelessness and housing plan, and that staff be instructed to develop housing-focused initiatives in alignment with the plan's recommendations, MESA, and the County of Renfrew's strategic plan.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the member from Whitewater, seconded by the member from Killaloe Haggerty Richards. Background, please.
Thank you, Chair. And to go through the background, we have a PowerPoint presentation to reference that's on screen right now. The report, we just received the final version of the report on Sunday, so it was short notice as far as the meeting today. The report is about 83 pages, and there's a lot to go through, a lot to consider, and really it will be a platform that we can do future strategic planning on. So this plan was done in conjunction with services procured from Org Code Consulting, Inc., to take expertise that they have within the field of homelessness and housing and to evaluate the current environmental status in Renfrew County regarding that, and then to take a plethora of data, and that data includes information anywhere from, Stats Canada, demographic information, to our own Renfrew County data that would be the by name homelessness enumeration data and the point in time data, our housing waitlist data, and so forth. So to take all of that and also take information from the public and their recommendations, and to roll it all into one responsive system that will focus on outreach and permanent housing solutions. So the plan focuses on prevention, focuses on enhancing supportive housing, as well as housing-focused emergency services to help reduce homelessness. And this plan and future strategic planning to move towards the implementation of it will align with the county's MESA initiative, as well as the strategic goals of community wellness and healthcare and attainable housing and infrastructure. The plan development was quite broad. There were 4 phases of development. The first phase involved deepening the understanding of the current state. Within this, we analyzed key data sources, homelessness counts, outreach activities, census data, wait lists, and conducted interviews with key stakeholders, including police, mental health workers, nonprofit organization leads, community leaders, and so forth, to understand the current landscape of challenges. The second phase involved consultations on the desired future state. And with this, we hosted community engagement sessions with residents, housing providers, and business leaders. We discussed policies, values, and potential solutions to align goals for housing and homelessness interventions. The third phase involved community survey on desired future state. And for this, we launched an electronic survey to gather insights from the community of Renfrew County. And with this, we had 791 participants. And as a side note to this, our consultant indicated that they were astounded by the level of engagement in Renfrew County, and even comparing it to much larger metropolitan areas, that our uptake for the survey completion was much higher. The survey responses provided a wide-ranging perspective on community needs and aspirations. And the fourth phase of development concerned analysis and research. So we took everything we learned along the way from the data, the engagement sessions, the surveys, and so forth, and we combined the findings with recommendations within this plan. And the focus is to ensure that we are providing recommendations and eventual interventions that are both evidence-based, but also include community input. Because it's such a large source of information for us right now, the framework for the 10-year homelessness and housing plan being 83 pages, I've just taken a few highlights to focus on for today. And from the survey, I'm not showing all of the stats on it, but just a few points of interest. We'll see that the age range for survey completion, the majority was between the ages of 36 and 64. And we will see that the highest concern area regarding the survey respondents' current housing was affordability, the ability to pay rent. In these areas, the questions were along, I am at risk of experiencing homelessness this year, and there were 626 respondents for this question. 15% felt that in 2024 that they could be at risk of experiencing homelessness. 620 respondents answered the next question, if there was an issue within my housing, I have someone I can count on for help. And 48% felt that they did not have a place to go for help. Another highlight, there are enough homelessness services within the county of Renfrew. 542 survey respondents answered this question. 486 felt that there was not enough. I would support more affordable housing in my neighborhood. So this speaks to assessing whether or not there would be NIMBYism in a neighborhood regarding the implementation of additional efforts. 617 respondents indicated that they would. 73% of the 617 indicated that they would support more affordable housing in their neighborhood. And 70% indicated that they would support supportive housing for people with complex needs in their neighborhood. And finally, just a summary of which population would you prioritize housing for. And the top two priorities involve families and seniors who are experiencing homelessness, followed by families in poverty, and then seniors in poverty. So to just take a look over at the plan recommendations, a summary of that, there are 4 groupings for plan recommendations. The first being a recommendation for people at imminent risk of homelessness, and objectives within that that focus on flexible funding mechanisms, discretionary assistance, the development of and prevention expertise and programming. The second category would be a grouping of recommendations for emergency housing focused services, and objectives to focus on there include the establishment of year-round low barrier service hub, professional operation and diversion practices, creation of a community liaison committee. The third area of recommendations for supportive housing and housing with supports. So development of site-specific supportive housing, 24/7 support, site-specific bridge housing, modified chronological access to community housing, and mobile housing support workers. The last category of recommendations is for those is recommendations for enhancing the homelessness response system. And the focus here is looking at enhancing or implementing solutions around data management and system improvement, development of intensive case management services, and enhancement of street outreach services. So all in all, there's a lot of work that we have ahead of us, and work that we are doing right now within the Community Services Department as far as evaluating programs and commencing additional strategic planning within the department, but also in collaboration with MESA and initiatives that run parallel with our homelessness and housing supports in community housing. So that concludes an overview to provide some background information on the recommendation.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Warden, please.
Thank you. What a great document. Just did a quick read through. And if this is covered in it, I apologize. The information that we inserted into the MESA document that talked about the cost of providing a home versus prison and mental health, and that might be something they want to include that graphic in as well, if it's not already in here. It's not? Okay, thank you. And then on page 10, it notes, in the third paragraph, it notes the senior population in Renfrew is expected to grow by 35%. I think you may mean county as opposed to the town, because that would cause some consternation.
Yes.
Thanks. And the other, the most significant thing I've seen in this, and I think it'll be that way, is that on page 33, the survey revealed that residents overwhelmingly view homelessness as a critical issue throughout Renfrew County and do not believe it is simply a result of personal choice. That's phenomenal, honestly. You know, it speaks to the empathy of the community. I'm not sure I would have predicted that, to that degree. So that's great work. I don't have anything else to add. There's a ton of stuff I've flagged to take a look at, but again, congratulations on this. Thank you.
Member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Yeah, I agree with the warden's comments. It is a fantastic document, and it will help guide us, to some solutions to help prevent homelessness here in Renfrew County. But I think we're all aware that we can't fund this ourselves. So is there an opportunity for us to share this document with higher levels of government or different levels to say, here's our plan, we need your help? And I'd just like to make a point. It said 73% of people don't think we're doing enough to prevent homelessness. When that question was asked, were they aware of everything we are doing, or is that just a general question asked to people on the street? Because I have to say, until I became part of this committee, I wasn't aware of all that we're doing. And I don't think the general population is aware of everything that we are doing. And I think that's why that number is a little high. So does that mean we need to toot our own horn a little bit more to let people know that we are actively trying to solve this problem and we are taking steps? I don't know.
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the board. So we are certainly working with community partners very collaboratively, as part of MESA to look at, what the costs are of some of these initiatives and what we can fund, and certainly pursuing any available funding as well. I'm forgetting what your first part of your question perhaps was. Just wanted to, though, take a minute to say, while I try to think of what you had asked, as Jennifer had mentioned, this is a very comprehensive report that we're just receiving, and we were very fortunate to be able to engage or Code Consulting, who did come in earlier in the spring as MESA was in its infancy and as we were starting to get the word out. I think that I'm coming back around to your question. So I think as the survey respondents were participating, I think it was in some of the early days and not aware of all of the mobile outreach services and things that we have put in place. So, I think just referring back to, what Mr. Davis said as in, the earlier closed presentation, we have a number of reports coming to us from consultants with expertise in different areas, and we have a lot to look at, and we'll form, some recommendations to bring back to this board as to what, we feel we can do. I think further to Ms. Dombrowski's point, some of these things are already underway with the MESA efforts. Some of the things have been on our radar as a department, and some of the things we will need to strategize more and bring information back to the board to determine, what that may look like to need to do it and whether this is something that the board wants us to move in that direction. So, want to acknowledge, all of the managers here. Mr. Dombrowski has spent a lot of time over the spring and summer with the consultants on this report, and the managers sitting beside me, as well as our administrative staff, and even one of Jason's managers helped us to conduct some of the public engagement sessions. So just want to thank all of the team for the participation in that, and to thank the board for the endorsement of this report. I think it's really helpful information that'll help us moving forward. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Member from Whitewater, please.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just echo the comments from both Warden and Councillor from Petawawa. Awesome to see something get put in writing, and the level, not just the amount of community engagement, but the level that the community participated in, it's impressive. And it's nice to know that we've hit something that they're interested in addressing. Two things that I'll throw at for further study when we look at the proposal that was in the resolution is just on page 76. One of the key recommendations outlines the number of units that they recommend in different scenarios. And what I saw when I looked at one, just as an example, was it recommends 12 units for older adults who have health concerns. And I had expected it to be substantially higher given the wait list for our social housing numbers. This is almost reassuring that it's only 12, but I wonder if what I'm thinking that number represents and what it actually does is two different things. So I would just ask if that can be clarified in subsequent reports or whatever that we end up doing. And the other comment I would ask or just highlight is at some point, and I can't remember the page number now, but there's an org chart of a service. It's really interesting to see all of the different processes that have to be managed with respect to addressing this complex need. And I can see I can draw circles around groups of them and say, oh yeah, I can see how we're currently addressing it. But to see it all on one page was interesting. So I think that's a valuable reference point for people when they take a look at the report. Thank you.
Any other comments? No, and I certainly appreciate the amount of work that has gone into getting this prepared from the time you received it on Sunday to now. Yes, I'm sure a lot of hours. So I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. New business. Nothing for new business. The date of the next meeting is Wednesday, October 16th. Motion to adjourn. Moved by the member from Whitewater, seconded by the member from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. We'll take a 7-minute bio break. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome back. I'd like to call to order this Community Services Committee meeting at Tuesday, September 10th. It is 2:59 p.m. And do roll call, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Mover and a seconder, please, for the adoption of the open minutes of the Community Services Committee for August 14th. Moved by the warden, seconded by the member from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. Mover and a second for the adoption of the closed minutes of August 14th. Moved by warden, seconded by the member from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. There are no delegations at the time of mailing this report. Community Service Department reports. We will go with the Director of Community Services report. Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Good afternoon, members of Community Services Committee. My report starts on page 9, and I have 3 information items for committee. The first is regarding the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. This is a rental subsidy benefit that is part of funded through the National Housing Strategy. So on the 14th of August, the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association, or OMSA, met with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to get an update on behalf of service system managers regarding our COB allocations. So as this committee will recall, back in May 2024, the federal and provincial government reached an agreement on a revised action plan around the National Housing Strategy, and through that was able to open up funding through the COCHI and the OFI funding streams for building projects and repair needs within Renfrew County Housing Corporation and our nonprofits. In addition, they did allow the rental allowance program through the COB to continue to flow through and payments not to be interrupted. However, they have not confirmed what our allocations will be moving forward. So the OMSA is keeping service managers updated on this, as this is a significant pressure for municipalities, as we do have regular calls from members of the community to identify when this program will open up. We have probably in our department about 3 calls a day with individuals waiting to know when they can apply for this benefit. So the rental allowance and any new spots, we should know what our allocation is very shortly. They had anticipated by mid-September. And it is a program that is managed by the province. However, our local office, as the service system manager, does have a role in determining eligibility and helping applicants with their application process. So I will keep this committee updated, and we do hope to have our allocations for this program confirmed very shortly. Item number 2 is I'm very, very pleased to let this committee know that we will be introducing, effective September 17th, one phone number for community services. So this is part of our modernization strategy that we've been looking at in-house in order to increase efficiency and effectiveness of our program delivery through some enhancements in our technology. So we will be introducing a new telephone system, which is called VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol, which is essentially phone calls come in through internet lines as opposed to traditional telephone lines. And this gives us considerable flexibility, as calls can be answered either on a cell phone or a tablet through an app, or it can be answered on a desktop computer through a Microsoft Teams app. So the introduction of this technology will help us to connect calls to our staff who are often out in the community. They may be out in daycare centers, they may be out in our community housing buildings, they may be out at other community service provider agencies. So it will help us to connect calls and clients with their staff member that they need to talk to in a timely and efficient and more modern manner. So certainly like to thank our IT manager, Mr. Chris Rinn, who's been been very supportive in helping us to research this solution that will meet our business and service needs, and has really been supporting us in the rollout of this, which we hope will go smoothly next week. And as noted in the report, I think this is a significant, a number of benefits for us around the flexibility, that I've spoken about. It also is going to be some cost savings for us, approximately just over $600 a month cost savings. We're going to be able to reduce our number of phone lines from 18 down to 2. And it's going to allow us to have some flexibility in programming our phone systems internally, as opposed to having to do external service calls and having to have providers come in. So I think it's going to give us a lot more flexibility, again, to meet our business needs. And certainly one of the things that we hear regularly is we offer so many programs and services in the Community Services Department, but often individuals or other agencies may not really know exactly what program the person needs. So we're going to make sure that we have some program support representatives more available to answer calls and to allow individuals to hold in queue while they speak to somebody that can help them navigate to the right program. So certainly, since we've achieved our human services integration and co-located with all of our program areas into one building, we have had individuals answering. It's been one office, all the numbers coming into one person. However, since we've moved offices, we've just had phone numbers still existing, but transferred up to the office. And currently, the technology, people have to push 1 for Ontario Works, 2 for Children's Services, 3 for housing, and that doesn't always work for people because they might not know what area they need services, and maybe they need services from multiple program areas. So hoping that this new modern technology helps us in a number of areas, but helps us to market to the community what our community services number is. It's one number for all services, and that we have staff available to help people navigate and get to the right programs and services that they need. So really looking forward to the introduction of that next week, and we do have some messaging going out on social media to make sure that we start to market that out. And the last information item in my report is regarding a training session that is actually taking place today for our Renfrew staff, and it'll be taking place tomorrow in Pembroke for our Pembroke staff, and it's called Rooted in Trauma: How Childhood Trauma Impacts Human Development, Behavior, and Vitality. So the training session is being delivered to all of our community services staff by the facilitator, Mary Hewitt, who is the founder of Unlocking Childhood. Mary Hewitt is no stranger to community services. She is an expert in the area of child development, and she has been supportive of our department and the work that we're doing around trauma-informed services and MESA, and has developed some programming for our staff to help them better understand what a trauma response looks like and how to support individuals that are experiencing trauma. And certainly this is extremely important to us as a department. We are working with extremely vulnerable individuals, and we want our staff to be at a very high level of expertise around understanding the impacts of trauma and what that looks like, and ensuring that we can be supportive in meeting their needs. So really pleased to be having this training, and I think that all staff will really benefit and really enjoy it. Thank you, Chair. I'll stop there, as that's the end of my information items.
Thank you. So comments, questions on information item number 1, the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. And information item number 2, member from Whitewater, please.
Chair, I can't remember what the number was that is in limbo from the Housing Benefit Fund. How much money are we talking about the impact to Renfrew County that's waiting for this decision?
Andrea.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Nicholson, we're not sure. So we have a number of individuals that are receiving the CAW benefit, which is a rent supplement program. We do have another internal rent supplement program that we fund through our homelessness prevention program. And So we're hoping that when our allocations are confirmed, that those who are currently receiving COB can continue to receive it at the same levels, but also that they may open up the program for more individuals to come onto it. We see with just the pressures and rising housing costs, such a demand for any of our rent supplement programs that help to pay a portion of the rent for individuals to stay in their current rental accommodations.
Okay. Item number 2, the one phone number for community services. I think this is great. Anything that helps people not have to go through 2, 3, 10 different departments. Warden, please.
So I'm going to certainly undress my ignorance here, but with the voice over internet protocol, is there anything happen that we have to do? We have to reinforce should the power go off somewhere? Because I know in the early days of voice over internet, that was a bit of an issue, and I'll confess to not having paid attention since probably 2014.
Ms. Patrick.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the Warden. Certainly, Mr. Rinn could explain this better than I could, but I'll do my best. If we have an interruption in internet service, we will have our phones will be service will be interrupted. This would be similar to other things that can happen currently within phone lines that go down. But I know, in his research and looking at other agencies who have moved to this model, it's felt to be, a good, some good success and not a lot of downtime. So we're hoping that that is the case for us.
Supplementary. So I'm assuming then there would be a very quick hitting of our social media channels just to announce that. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, rooted in trauma training. None? Okay, we'll continue with resolutions, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the committee. So the first is item number 4, a warming center winter 2024 to 2025. May I go ahead and read the recommendation, Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, the recommendation is that the Community Services Committee recommends that County Council approve that the County of Renfrew take on a leadership role with respect to the operations of a warming center located in the City of Pembroke for the 2024-2025 winter season, pending the following. 1, the Warming Center Ad Hoc Committee be once again stood up as the Oversight Committee with a review of the terms of reference to determine if updates are required. 2, the municipalities that participated in last year's warming center model contribute funding equal to 2023-2024 amounts. 3, that staff be directed to work with the City of Pembroke on an appropriate location that provides for a more cohesive and effective delivery of services. 4, that the City of Pembroke initiates the appropriate steps with respect to their zoning bylaw to allow flexibility on placement of a warming center. And that staff be directed to apply the allocated funds from the Homelessness Prevention Program funding envelope toward this initiative to a maximum of $100,000.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the member from Petawawa, second by the member from Whitewater. Go ahead and read the background, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. As I spoke about at the last committee meeting, I think the County of Renfrew, with the MESA initiative and the coordination of 3 departments working together, led by our administration department, to really look at the needs of individuals experiencing homelessness, mental health, and addictions in a different and more comprehensive way, has really advanced where we're at and the level of service that we're able to provide to vulnerable individuals. As this committee is aware, we have embarked on a number of initiatives around some supportive hotel stays and the agreement with Carefor to provide supportive bridge housing, and the work that is being done through the mobile community paramedicine and mental health and addiction workers to reach people where they're at. And many of these services have really supported the community. However, a gap continues to remain for individuals that are not ready to engage in programs or just not at a point where they're ready to engage in the services or treatment that they may need to get to a more stable place. And with the winter months coming, we do feel that a very low barrier service hub solution, a warming center, is still necessary, and feeling that as staff through the MESA model that we have demonstrated an ability to work very effectively with community partners and to take on a leadership role in terms of supporting some of the financial aspects and the data management of the clients that are accessing the center, and working individually with those clients to plan next steps in their programming journey. I think that another collaborative effort is what is the recommendation that's coming forward. And I will note for this committee, there's a letter that has come in and been attached for this committee's information from Stephen Boland, Chair of the Pembroke Area Community Task Force, as well as Deacon Adrian Chaput from the Grind, expressing their willingness again to work collaboratively to help support this population this winter.
Any comments or questions on this? Warden, please.
I don't think there's any doubt of the need to continue to offer this service. And again, I think it's an inherited role, but I would suggest to you that it's a role that lines up very nicely and supports our overall plan for assisting and treating people. And as we've seen, it also, I think, allows an introduction of some of the clients into the service network, whether they accept that day or whether it takes a few days or a few trips in to get them connected in. And again, I think it also buttresses very nicely with what we're doing with the MESA initiative. So I agree that I think we need to take a prominent role because the issues are complex and the partnerships can sometimes lead to confusion. And I think it's important to have an overall vision, and I think this is consistent with our overall vision of community services and then with MESA. I would also suggest the terms of reference do need to be rewritten. I wrote them last year in a bit of a, I wouldn't say a hurry, but with a need for speed and a need to turn them out. So they certainly do need a brushing up. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Member from Whitewater, please.
Just a technical question, Chair. The recommendation speaks to an ad hoc committee. Is it a County of Renfrew ad hoc committee? Or how, because I'm not sure if, can we amplify just exactly what that means in terms of an ad hoc committee?
Mr. Kelly, please.
Having reviewed the procedural bylaw several times over the last little while through you, Chair, an ad hoc committee just is one that has a beginning and end mandate, right? So it's anticipated that the warming center has a mandate to continue this until the end of the term, of the end of the winter season of 2025, and then it will end and then be reviewed. If again stood up, then we would have the striking committee come back and establish it once again.
Thank you. Member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I think it's important to stress that this is a much-needed thing for our community again, and I don't think any of us thought that last year would be a one-off, that we would just, provide this service and then we wouldn't ever need it again. So I think it's great that this is coming back up. Just a couple of questions, and I'll start off with the ad hoc committee because there were some concerns from some municipalities about the terms of reference of that committee and having a member on there in terms of the liability issue, where it was stated that any member of the committee there, who they were representing, may have some liability. So I just wanted to ask if that piece is being rejigged, I guess.
Warden, please.
I was the guilty party because it's natural for me, as soon as I sit on board, to ask to ensure that there is liability insurance in case something happens, and so I think that caused the difficulty. And my impression is that I thought the insurance of the county covered that assembling, but I would be corrected without any kind of prejudice.
I'll help the warden out a little bit on that one, if I could, Chair, and through you. So there was the question on the committee, and then there's a question of the agreement with the grind in terms of services. And the City of Pembroke had drafted an agreement with the grind, and the agreement then extended all liability to members on the committee. I believe that was taken care of, though, I think, and relief was provided for insurance or indemnity, at least to members on the committee.
Okay, thanks for that. And the other question, and I know when funding is being sought for initiatives like this, it's always difficult, and especially when other municipalities are involved and there's a budgetary process. And usually when funding is asked for at this latest stage, it's always unbudgeted. Now, having said that, I can't speak for council, but I don't think there's a problem with accessing funding for something that's this much in need in the community. Just a suggestion for going forward, though, as it seems like this is something that will be providing year over year in our community because it's much needed, that perhaps we could send out a request earlier in the year for the 2025-2026 winter, assuming that some type of service like this is going to be required in the community. And if on the odd chance it's not, well, then we don't ask for the money. But assuming that we're going to be asking for this year over year, get out a request early so that municipalities can budget ahead of time.
Mr. Kelly.
I'm going to grab this one a little bit if I can. So the wording of the resolution is carefully worded, where it suggests the county take a leadership role for this season. When, you may recall, when this was stood up last year by the warden in terms of an ad hoc committee, the warden was suggesting that he was hopeful that a nonprofit or some other group would take this on and move forward. That has not been the case. And we are near the middle, well, by the time this resolution goes to county council October 1st, and no solution in mind. And we saw at least 20 individuals, or give or take, unique individuals, unique in terms of singular, and several hundreds of visits to the warming center. We all agree that the mobile trailer solution wasn't really optimal. We believe that there's another methodology to doing this, when we've identified some bricks and mortar within the city where this could likely take place. There is some, the resolution speaks to some zoning bylaws and some other issues that we have to deal with to get them into a more secure and maybe permanent space. But for the county, to answer your question more directly, for the county to request these dollars on an annual basis, I maintain it's not really our position to run the facility. This is a facility that's unique to the City of Pembroke at the moment. Although we understand that people may travel into the area, it's still a City of Pembroke issue. Like it would be an issue for Empire Renfrew should they stand up a warming center. We are, again, to use the word again, a unique situation that we are the service managers or the holders of funds for the homelessness prevention program plan, HPP money, and funnel the dollars through to such programs as this, as we've identified $100,000 in our plan to do this. So I agree with your point, and we agree with your point overall that we don't want to be in this position every September and October. We would rather a long-term solution to be had. I just don't know how we get there without a community organization stepping up and saying we'll do it, and here's the budget to do it on an annual basis. We don't have that secure, we don't have that solid foundation of an organization that's willing to step up on an annual basis for certain. We know that the Grind is a partner and has been a partner for the last 2 seasons, but we now understand through media releases and otherwise that they their home in the city of Pembroke is being is under threat, I guess, the lease has been extended, that's what we know, but they don't have a certain future because they're not being told they can purchase the building they want. So anyway, all that to say that, again, we're fine with the leadership role for now, but in terms of ownership of running the facility, I'm not there yet in terms of a corporation, but we take advice from council.
Good. Any other comments or questions? None? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Continue on, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. So item number 5 is regarding the homelessness and addiction recovery treatment, HEART hubs, call for proposals. So may I read the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee, the recommendation is that the Community Services Committee recommends to County Council that the County of Renfrew work with Mesa community partners in mental health, addiction, and treatment to identify a lead applicant, and that a full proposal to create homelessness and addiction recovery treatment HEART hubs in Renfrew County be submitted.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by member from Petawawa, seconded by the member from Killaloe Haggerty Richards. Background, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. On August 29th, we received correspondence, which is attached for committee's information, from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Ministry of Health, speaking about the $378 million over 4 years that the Province of Ontario is investing in creating 10 new homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs. And as committee will recall, this was the announcement by Minister Jones at the AMO conference, and the memo that's attached in the package provides more detail about this process. So they are looking for an intent to apply to be submitted by September 20th as the first step. And they are looking for the service system manager for housing to endorse any proposals going forward in order to ensure that the housing and health human services are coordinated in providing needed supports for individuals that are experiencing homelessness. So we had a brief meeting with members of the Renfrew County and District Drug Strategy Team and other MESA partners to take a look at this correspondence and to start to take a look at submitting an intent to apply by the deadline of September 20th. And perhaps, Chair, I'll leave it there and maybe see if CAO Kelly has anything further to add.
Mr. Kelly, do you have anything further to add?
Oh, my God. Thanks, Ms. Patrick. That was great. So the only thing to add is that you have heard us and have. When did we talk about this? Regardless, we have had conversations in this council chambers in a public setting about our transitional housing that we're setting up at the Care For location in Pembroke. We've identified Pembroke as a central hub for providing these services. We just spoke about the warming center, of course, as an area of need. The methadone clinic, or the OATC, is here in Pembroke, and there's several individuals using that facility that are either housed or are precariously housed. So we've recognized through the drug strategy, as you could hear today at the health committee, that the situation is not going away. We have also presented, as Ms. Patrick has said in the past, and today to Minister Tibolo at our Queen's Park Day, and again a few weeks ago at AMO, on the importance of funding MESA. So the intent to apply will be submitted because it's not committing council to anything at this moment. But we're hopeful that you will support us moving forward in creating that hub in and around our services that we hope to anticipate providing at the Care For location here with our MESA partners. So that's the intent of it all, and we're just really fleshing out the details as we go, and we've got several people really working almost day and night now to figure out the deadline of the next 30 days to get this submitted in time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on that? Member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I think this is a great opportunity, and why not take a chance? I mean, you never know what can happen. My question is just an administrative one, I guess. I noticed that the deadline is the 20th, and you said because it doesn't tie council to anything, we as a committee can make that decision to submit the intent, even though it's not going to come before county council?
Through you, Chair, absolutely. So the fun part of delegated authorities that you've provided to certain department heads and directors is that we have the ability to apply for funding or programs or grants without necessarily coming back if it doesn't tie you to anything, right? So all this is suggesting, this is really just a call for applications, say who's interested, is putting your hands up, and we believe, based on strategic initiatives that you've been involved with before, transitional housing and some basically the fact that we went to AMO and Queen's Park pitching the same idea, that you're in support of this initiative. So we're making that determination. However, that said, if committee wanted to even lend further credence to this, you could actually direct staff today to continue with that intent to apply, just to add more fodder to the fire, if you will. But this, yeah, to be clear, the intent of this recommendation is to continue past that intent to apply, to actually move to suggest to county council to actually apply for the October 10th or deadline or whatever it happens to be.
Any other questions or comments on this? None? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. What's next? Community Supports Division Report. Ms. Muldoon, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and through you to committee. My report today contains 3 information items. I'll begin with information item number 1, which is an update to the employment services transformation and the work that's been completed to date. So this committee may recall that the County of Renfrew officially launched into the employment services transformation in October of 2023 as part of the Phase 1 rollout. At that time, we joined 9 other Phase 1 municipalities who had started with their launch in the spring of 2023. The third and final phase of the rollout is anticipated in 2025, and currently the majority of municipalities are now participating. So much of the 2024 year is going to serve as a test year, with lessons learned being incorporated into the full rollout in 2025. I'd like to just draw your attention to the table that's included in this report. So this is just a very brief summary of some of the work that's being completed, and the table reflects the information local to the County of Renfrew as well as comparative to the province. So with the new EST model, common assessments and action plans are completed for all Ontario Works recipients and all participating Ontario Disability Support Program recipients. The common assessment is broken into 2 modules. So module 1 is completed with each adult participant, typically by Ontario Works staff, but can also be completed by Employment Ontario staff if the client attends the Employment Ontario office ahead of time. Module 2 is completed by Employment Ontario staff, and this is typically just a review of their existing skill set or employment history to better support them in their employment journey. Individualized action plans are created for all clients, and formerly we referred to this as an outcome plan. This is essentially a goal-setting opportunity, and it helps to identify service needs or referrals that could be completed. And caseworkers are using checkpoints to help keep track of progress for participants that are completing these action plans. So you'll see in the table, as of July 2024, we have an action plan completion rate of a little over 51% of all adult participants who have participation requirements. So you may recall from a previous committee report, our caseload totals right now are around 1,200 to 1,300 cases in Ontario Works. So of those cases, we're at about a 50% completion rate for those with participation requirements. Of the participants who have completed an action plan, we have a referral rate to Employment Ontario of a little over 16%. And these are clients who have been identified as either being referral or employment ready. What we've been able to further identify with the information that we're now collecting is that the top 3 reasons for not referring clients to Employment Ontario for employment supports are related to clients who are experiencing unmanaged health conditions or crisis, unmanaged mental health conditions or crisis, or homelessness or housing instability. What we've also been able to identify through the completion of these action plans is some additional support needs that are indicated by clients who are both referred and not referred to Employment Ontario. The top service needs that are included or that have been identified through the completion of the action plans are additional mental health resources, financial security, food security, and access to transportation, and support with issues relating to housing instability or homelessness. The last 2 categories in the chart represent the total percentage of Ontario Works caseload that has exited into employment within the County of Renfrew, as well as with the province. And again, showing consistent results with the province at a little over 5%. The last row identifies cases that have closed and who have then returned within a year of exiting. Again, our results within the county very consistent with what we're seeing across the province. Information item number 2 is an update on the centralized intake activities. So as noted in the report, the County of Renfrew has been participating in the centralized intake model since the implementation in 2020. You may recall that one of the goals within this model was to process applications using a risk-based eligibility determination, or RBED process, and it ultimately uses third-party data to corroborate and support decisions of eligibility for Ontario Works applications. Applications determined to be at a higher risk based on the information provided through third-party resources would ultimately be transferred to the local office for further processing. Previously, it was noted that the province did have a goal initially of having 70% of Ontario Works applications processed through the RBED model, and anticipating that approximately 30% of the applications would be returned to the local office for further processing. So as the technology has continued to evolve and be enhanced, applications can now be completed for Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support at the same time within one application. There's been a new unit that's been put into place recently, the Provincial Support Unit, which is supporting the applications that have been granted ODSP. And currently we have within the province, there's 10 municipalities within the province where the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services has been granted legislative authority as an Ontario Works administrator. So they're supporting and moving forward with their goal of the province taking more of a role in the centralized intake model. So within this information item, I've just included a chart just to reflect the total volume of applications that our local office is completing and that we have completed within the last 3 months. I just want to note within the chart, you're going to see applications there for emergency assistance and temporary care assistance. Those types of applications are actually not included in the centralized intake scope. But as you can see with the applications completed by the intake the IBAU, the Intake Benefits and Administration Unit, and applications that are completed by our local office, we're still seeing more of the applications being processed locally by our staff. And in fact, approximately 70% of the applications being completed by local staff and only 30% being completed through the IBAU. My last information item is really just a quick update related to the My Benefits tool. So this is an app that can be downloaded by clients and helps to enhance their ability to have access to information related to their Ontario Works or Ontario Disability Support Program case. It also allows digital communication between themselves and their caseworker and an ability to submit documents online. Since its launch, we've been promoting the use of this digital tool, and earlier in 2023, the tool and a registration option was introduced as part of the social assistance digital application. So we're certainly seeing an increase and an uptake in the registrations, with approximately 30% of our Ontario Works caseload now registered. Thank you, Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Information item number 1. Any questions, comments on the Employment Services Transformation Update? Member from Whitewater, please.
Just on that first chart where it talks about the percentage of action plans completed, our percentage is 51. The province average, I'm assuming, is 72. The 3 reasons you gave later on when you talked about the chart, they're influencing that percentage?
So this would be related to cases where the action plan has been completed. So we are, of the total number of adult participants who have mandatory participation requirements, we're at about a 50% completion rate. So 50% of the people who should have an action plan have one that's now been completed. I would say our numbers are looking from October of 2023, and this chart is up until July of 2024. So that's our completion rate to date versus the other municipalities that are participating in the employment services transformation.
So just a supplemental, do we have an idea why our percentage of completion is lower than what's being experienced at other municipalities?
I think it really is just a reflection of the reduction in funding that we have received and the reduced number of caseworkers that we have completing the work, combined with, as I mentioned, the different issues and needs that are identified as part of these action plans. I think more of the work that's being done by the caseworkers is being, involved with supporting clients in managing those needs. So it is challenging to get to every member of their caseload.
Supplemental again?
Second supplemental. It's like I keep getting an answer. So, Chair, I'm just curious then, if we know we're not meeting the same level as other organizations in the province, so the need is still there. We can't achieve it because they cut the funding. So it's impacting our community members from accessing those supports, getting those action plans completed, and moving along in the process. This is obviously a provincial responsibility to fund this. What are we doing to address that shortcoming?
Ms. Patrick.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Councillor Nicholson, I'm sure that Ms. Muldoon could answer this just as well as I could, but I'll jump in anyways. I think that, the reports and the overview that Ms. Muldoon has provided, really reflect some of the challenges that we're seeing locally with the amount of individuals struggling and in crisis, which takes a lot of staff time, and also with the province not being quite where they hope to be in terms of the centralized intake tools, and the majority of applications still being directed back to local staff. With respect to the action plans, these are a tool to assess individuals' needs and complete work around their agreement of activities that they're going to be involved with. It is a rather time-intensive assessment that is conducted, and it is very important. However, our direction, to staff with the resources that we have is you need to deal with the most critical emergency situations in front of you in terms of processing benefits, so people have payments, so they can have funding, and, some of these activities around action plan completion, have to be put to the side until you have the time to do it. there has been a lot of advocacy. We're, as Ms. Baldoon indicated, kind of in fairly similar situation, although certainly a little under the rest of the province with the action plans. We certainly have a lot of Ontario Works staff and always have really involved in supporting individuals experiencing homelessness. And, from the efforts that this committee has seen around Mesa and the needs that we're seeing, locally, obviously a lot of pressures in that regard. But there has been a lot of advocacy to the province about the workload and about some of the funding reductions, and we are certainly anticipating and have heard that a new funding formula is coming for 2025 that will reflect the increased workload that municipalities are seeing, the growing caseloads, and also, the inability for some of the provincial tools to be at the level that they're hoping them to be at right now. So we do expect to have some good news coming in that regard with 2025 budgets. Hope that helps.
That's perfect, Chair. Thank you so much. And I don't mean to insinuate you're not doing, I just want to make sure that you have the resources you need to do your job. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Member from Petawawa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I know when we were talking about this rollout a year ago that some concerns were expressed within this committee about taking a service that's in the hands of governmental agencies and putting it into the hands of a private for-profit company. That one of our biggest concerns was, in order for them to make a profit, they're going to be cut somewhere. And I think we talked about there being cuts in staffing, and we're seeing the result of that now, that the people who need this service in our county are not getting it in an efficient manner. And it's at no fault of you or your staff, it's because of the cuts. Is the government monitoring this situation, how it's been rolled out through CERCO, and realizing that perhaps some more funding needs to be allocated to staffing to get this program back up to where it needs to be, to get the funding into the hands of those people that need it the most?
Ms. Muldoon, please.
Sorry, if you're okay, Chair, I'll take this one as well. And thank you, Chair, through you to Councillor Service. Just wanting to make sure that we are clear. So, Councillor Service is absolutely correct in terms of the 22% funding reduction that was moved from the Ontario Works funding to MLITSD as part of the Employment Services transformation. However, we certainly want to indicate the excellent work that we have had with our Employment Ontario providers, and I think the services that they have provided to clients have been very effective, and certainly, I think despite some of our staff not having adequate time to complete as many action plans as others, their outcomes are very good and slightly higher than provincial average of those able to exit the program and get to employment. So some good work there with some of the Employment Ontario providers and good supports and options for clients, and also a slightly ahead of provincial average as well around being able to exit and stay independent and not returning to social assistance. So I think, really the numbers here are more reflecting just the inability to complete the number of action plans, and recognizing for this committee that although, this is important work, it's not the most pressing piece of an Ontario Works caseworker's duty to get payments to clients. That has to come first, as well as any crisis situations that are coming into the office with people being unhoused and needing those supports. So just wanted to make sure that was a clear as far as what the numbers are showing, and I think we have had really positive engagement and collaboration with the Employment Ontario service providers across Renfrew County, and some good partnerships there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Member from Kilulu Haggerty Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Is there a definitive reason why the cases who exit and they return within a year? Is there a reason why they're returning after going out?
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. I don't have a researched answer for that. What I would guess is that many of the clients that are exiting to social assistance are receiving seasonal type of work or part-time or more precarious type of work. So I think that's where we're seeing the return rate.
Any more questions? No? Okay. Questions on 2, centralized intake update? None. Item 3, my benefits update? None. Okay, we'll continue on with the Children's Services Division report. Ms. Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. The Children's Services report begins with 2 information items. Information item number 1, special needs resourcing funding and support paper. So OMSA and the 47 municipal service system managers worked collaboratively to create the attached special needs resourcing funding and support paper in order to bring some information on approaches, challenges, and recommendations to the Ministry of Education relating to this very, very important work. Special needs resourcing is the same as what is referred to here in the County of Renfrew as inclusion services, and it is a core childcare and early years service that supports the inclusion of children with special needs in licensed childcare settings. So just as a quick summary, inclusion services is directly operated by our staff in the County of Renfrew, while some other municipalities may opt to contract third-party agencies to deliver these services. So, and the paper references resource consultants throughout, which would be the equivalent of our inclusion coordinators, who are each assigned to a group of licensed childcare centres to provide consistent support and recommendations to facilitate the inclusion of children within their programs. The ministry has indicated that children with special needs are a key population to consider within the CWELC access and inclusion framework, and the province is seeing a lot of growth in the sector and more children with increasing needs. Special needs resourcing funding is currently allocated within the core childcare budget, as there is no specific CWELC funding designated to this area despite that growth in need. So the paper was created from a summary of individual discussion papers that were completed by 43 of the 47 municipal service managers in order to provide input to the ministry for future special needs resourcing funding and policy direction. The 3 main recommendations are to fully fund the actual costs of special needs resourcing delivery, build workforce capacity, and strengthen inclusive practices. The paper was submitted to the ministry on August 27th, and the hope is that there will be some engagement from the ministry to discuss the proposed recommendations. Information item number two, new childcare funding approach memo. So there is a memo attached from the Ministry of Education that is providing all municipal service system managers with information and key updates about the implementation of a new cost-based approach to CWELC funding. And some of the key highlights include an additional one-time CWELC administrative funding increase being allocated for 2024 to help with the implementation of this new approach. The amount for the County of Renfrew is $246,213. It also speaks to the new CWELC cost-based funding guideline for 2025, which has been provided to us as service system managers. This replaces the previous revenue replacement model that the ministry implemented when CWELC came into place in 2022. This funding is for the delivery of childcare programs for children 0 to 5. We will be working through these changes with the licensed providers. The memo also addresses the new local priorities funding allocation, which is another piece of the childcare budget, which will support centres that are enrolled in CWELC for other programming which is outside of the CWELC system, including children aged 6 to 12. We have not yet received the guidelines for this particular piece of the funding. The memo also speaks to the impacts that this new funding approach will have on non-CWELC enrolled licensees. So as of January 1st, 2025, routine funding will no longer be issued to licensees who are not participating in the CWELC system. The exception to this will be with respect to existing fee subsidy agreements for children until they age out or leave the program. So I recognize that there's many layers to this information, and I just want to try to clarify a little bit. For the licensed centers who are enrolled in CWELC, they will receive funding for the delivery of their programs for the children who are 0 to 5 through the new cost-based CWELC funding allocations. They will also receive funding through the local priorities allocation for other programming, including the children aged 6 to 12. For the licensed centers who are not enrolled in CWELC, there will no longer be routine provincial funding issued effective January 1st, 2025, as I mentioned before, with the exception of already existing fee subsidy agreements. So we are currently working through all of this new information. The memo came to us on August 1st, and we're working through this with the ministry, asking questions and speaking to the licensed providers to navigate the impacts of these changes. The memo also does indicate that the next move towards the average daily fee of $10 through the CWELC system is as of January 1st, 2025, all childcare-based fees will be capped at $22. So it's the next move, and they will come with the next move after that later in the year. You will see, too, at the end of the memo, there's an appendix attached with preliminary childcare funding allocations for 2025 and the additional 2024 administrative funding increase for all service system managers throughout the province. Chair, should I stop there? The next is a delegated authority.
No, go on.
Go ahead? Okay. So item number 3 is a delegated authority approval. We did receive an amended childcare early on and CWELC transfer payment agreement that included the additional one-time CWELC administrative funding that I was speaking about in the last item in the amount of $246,213. And this was approved under delegated authority bylaw 98-24. I'll stop there.
Yes, please. Okay, we'll go back to information item number 1, special needs resourcing funding and support paper. Any questions or comments? Member from Whitewater.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Great report, and interesting to see it written with all the input from the different organizations. So it was interesting to see how they grouped all that data together. My question, though, is specific to the third recommendation, where it talks about, and I'm going off of memory here, a more inclusive language or approach. And although I note that it's a recommendation to the provincial government, is there steps we can take internally to make changes within Renfrew County to change the name or how we might approach this program?
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. I think that we might be a little bit ahead of the game on this because the recommendation is to and I don't have the exact wording here, but the recommendation is to change it to use the words inclusion within the provincial vocabulary, and we are already there. Our positions are inclusion coordinators that we have here in the county, and we title it inclusion services.
Bonus points.
For sure. Any other questions or comments? No. Item number 2, new child care funding approach memo. Member from Whitewater.
Chair, I was wondering if we could ask staff to speak to, I know part of the delegation that was completed at AMO did speak to this. I don't know, maybe the warden or Ms. Patrick may have comments about how that delegation went with respect to this topic.
I would prefer Ms. Patrick answer. Thanks.
Ms. Patrick, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Yes, absolutely. So we were really pleased to have a delegation with Minister Dunlop at AMO, where the warden and Councillor Nicholson and CAO Kelly were present to advocate for the County of Renfrew's needs around increased CWELC spaces. We were not allocated any CWELC spaces in 2025 or 2026, and so at this time we do not have any CWELC spaces available. All of our CWELC space allocation has already been attached to existing providers or programs. So one of the things that this new funding formula does make very, very challenging for the County of Renfrew is that we, obviously, the ministry's move to effective January 1st, 2025, not provide any operating funding to non-CWELC centers. the initiative, I think, on behalf of the ministry is to encourage providers to join CWELC and to be a part of that program and to grow that program. However, in the county of Renfrew, that's not an option for any of our three. We have, fortunately, we had high uptake, but we do have some centers who have not opted in, and they don't have the option to opt in because we don't have any spaces. And that was part of what we were able to communicate and advocate for at the AMO delegation. And we were informed that since the funding formula was dropped, the ministry was going to be going back and taking a look at any unused allocations from other service managers and potentially reallocate them across other municipalities who could use them. So we are hoping that we hear something back and that there's an opportunity for a reallocation there. I'll stop there.
Supplemental?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mrs. Patrick. That perfect, perfect summary. The concern that I also want to highlight in terms of the impact immediate to the county is that there are 2 providers, I think that was mentioned, that don't have CWELC. They didn't sign up for CWELC. Yet they may have some children in their programming that are currently being subsidized, being in the 0 to 5 range, with other types of subsidies that might be provided through community services. However, as of January 1st, they will no longer receive any funding. And now, because we have no CWELC spaces left, they can't even opt to become CWELC to gain access to those. So now we are punishing the organizations that we were previously trying to support, and it's being constrained by the way the province is managing these CWELC allocations. So it's just another point. I know the staff are all over this, but it's just to highlight those 2 communities are going to come screaming when they realize they no longer have that subsidy in January.
Yes, thank you. Warden, please.
Yeah, and yes, thank you. And Chair, through you, I believe one of the solutions we proposed was we have some of that CWELC capacity tied to future builds. And one of the things we asked about was the ability to take those numbers from the future builds and bring them back into today's front lines, with the idea that we would reapply to reattach new numbers in the future. I think that was one of the strategies we suggested.
Ms. Patrick.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'll start here and then invite Ms. Smith to jump in with some additional information. But thank you, Warden. That is entirely accurate that the minister did indicate that if we had spaces that were tied up in pipeline builds that we did not anticipate to be built by the end of the CWELC agreement, which is the end of 2026, that we could reallocate those spaces now. Now, in going back to look at those, it's very difficult and difficult to get answers when people are hoping to move the projects forward when they anticipate the builds will be completed. And we have some situations that we're very hesitant to move spaces if there's a chance that they may be able to operate in 2026. And I'll look to Ms. Smith to see if she has anything to add there.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, Ms. Patrick is correct. We have a project in particular that we're in communication to try to get some timelines in terms of what the build looks like, so that we can determine whether or not we can go back to the ministry and ask for that space allocation to be redistributed now, so that we don't lose out on that before the CWELC agreement end dates in 2026. So we are definitely in communication with our partners to try to figure that out, because we certainly don't want to see those spaces go to waste, in quotes.
Warden.
And supplementary, so would those spaces be enough to transfer over to the and have the 2 organizations join the CWELC program?
So through you, Chair, to committee, there's actually 3 non-CWELC enrolled licensees in the county, and it would not be enough to cover them all, but it would be a decent amount. We would have to take a look at those numbers and take a look at what that might look like.
Okay, thank you very much.
Member from Petawawa, please.
Going to be Warden.
Thank you, Chair. It's getting late in the meeting. And you don't have to answer this now, but could you please send me just the cost-based allocation system, how that works, just so I can wrap my head around why we get that number and other counties get that number? My question is, I noticed in the chart that we're the only county that didn't have a startup allocation for this period. I'm just wondering why.
Through you, Chair, thank you for the question. That can simply be explained because we have no spaces to build. So they didn't add, the startup amount that you're talking about is directly linked to Seawelk space building, and because we were not allocated any spaces for 25, we're not getting the startup grant.
Okay, any other questions or comments? No? Okay, item 3 is the delegated authority approvals. Nothing? Okay, continue with the resolutions, please. Oh, sorry.
I just have to say, I really like the format where there are 4 signatures on the document. So it's got a thoroughness of review. I certainly didn't appreciate it when we talked about the delegated authority. But I like the format, and I like the fact that 4 people sign off on it that are significant in the organization.
Thank you. Okay, continue on, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. The next item is a resolution, the hourly rate for program support staff, and I'll go ahead and read the recommendation.
Yes, please.
The recommendation is that the Community Services Committee recommends that County Council approve an increase to the program support staff, formerly known as resource staff, the capped rate of $18 per hour plus mandatory benefits to $21 per hour plus mandatory benefits effective September 1st, 2024.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by the member from Whitewater, seconded by the member from Petawawa. Background, please.
So the background to this, so this resolution is related to my first information item about the special needs resourcing, specifically with regard to the recommendation to help build workforce capacity in this area. As mentioned earlier, in the County of Renfrew, our children's services staff directly operate inclusion services, and the inclusion coordinators work with licensed childcare providers to provide support and recommendations to facilitate inclusion within the programs. So when the recommendations and needs that are suggested are not able to be met by the ratio staffing that are in place in a center, the county can look at providing special needs resourcing or inclusion funding to pay the center for enhanced program staff, depending on the needs of the program. So licensed centers recruit and hire these staff, and we provide them with the funding. Currently, that funding that is provided to the licensed operators to pay for the program support staff is based on an hourly wage of $18 per hour. And we know that there is a staffing crisis in the childcare and early years sector, and with minimum wage increasing to $17.20 per hour effective October 1st, 2024, we would like to be very responsible in supporting the recruitment and retention of quality staff in this very important area. We know from the licensees that it is quite challenging for them to hire and retain staff at this wage level, and many do move on to higher paying opportunities when they arise. So we are recommending that the rate be raised from $18 per hour to $21 per hour, which will be funded through the core childcare budget. It is difficult to calculate an exact financial impact due to the fluctuating nature of childcare programming with children entering and exiting and the needs that are out there, but we are confident that the existing budget, as well as what we know for 2025, can support this change and is 100% provincially funded.
Any questions or comments? Member from Whitewater, please.
Just because we're on a marathon, we're going to see how long we last here today. These staff that are hired, they're not ECEs, so they're not qualified for the same wage levels as ECEs. Are we encouraging them if they're working in childcare opportunities? Are these the type of people that might come in this position and then gradually move up into an ECE after education? Is that also an incentive?
Through you, Chair, to committee, and just to clarify, the staff could be an ECE. It just depends on what is needed within the center, but what they are not considered is a ratio staff within the center. So each center, depending on the classroom that they are in, there are certain numbers of ratio staff that have to be present in terms of the age groupings of the children. These enhanced program support staff are outside of that ratio, so they don't meet the criteria to be eligible for the wage grid that was created by the ministry. So often they are not registered early childhood educators, but they can be. They can be.
Any other questions or comments on that? No? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay, where am I? Could I get a mover and a seconder to approve the Community Services Department report as a whole? Moved by the member from Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards, seconded by the member from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. There is no closed meeting, thank goodness, and no new business, sorry. No new business. The date of our next meeting is Wednesday, October 16th, and motion to adjourn. Moved by the member from Killaloe, Haggerty, Richards, and seconded by the member from Petawawa. All in favor? Carried. We are adjourned, and thank you, everybody.